Imagine climbing behind the wheel of your car with a plan to drive across the entire United States. And imagine only traveling on side streets, through little towns and villages, avoiding the superhighways. Taking a journey like this would be one of the best ways to really see the countryside. What's the best way to fully experience the Bible? Reading it, of course, but how might you read it? If you compare it to traveling across the U.S., most people read the Bible more like flying across the country in an airplane, hopping from city to city, skipping over most of what's there. The Bible in 90 Days program is like taking a journey that will allow you, perhaps for the first time, to see all the little towns and villages along the way. It's reading the entire Bible, cover to cover, in 90 days.
When it came time for Bible in 90 Days, I made a personal commitment to God that I was going to read through the book. It has been a life-changing event.
I believe for me, it was the desire to want to know more about the Lord, to have a deeper, intimate relationship with Him, and to learn more about His character.
I have a good friend at church. His name is Charlie Soderstrom, and he went through the Bible in 90 Days program with us. And at the end, he came into my office and he said, "Reagan, my life has been changed by reading the Bible. I have met Jesus Christ for the first time."
6 or 7 years ago, I was a businessman who I think was a moral businessman and tried to do things ethically. I just didn't happen to be a Christian. And not only was I not a Christian, I was agnostic. I didn't know whether there was a God or not. I had a lot of Christian friends, and I thought they were wasting a lot of their time going to church and worshiping a God. So it was with great sort of surprise on my own part that suddenly, 6 years ago, I felt led to read the Bible. I was surprised with myself, and I really, frankly, didn't want anybody to know that I was considering doing this. And so I went around and sort of stealthily looked at Bibles for about 3 weeks before selecting a Bible to read. I brought it home and started reading it, started reading 12 pages a day. And I have to tell you that after being very skeptical when I started reading it, I suddenly realized that I believed what I was reading. And I was in Isaiah or Jeremiah, somewhere in the prophets in the Old Testament, and it was a very odd place, but became a Christian in the Old Testament. And because I knew what was being pointed to. I knew enough about the Bible that we were pointing to the New Testament. You know, a lot of people have these grand experiences when that happens. Mine was very silent and very quiet, and just a real peace came over me. And I just suddenly realized, hey, you know what? This stuff that I've been so skeptical about all this time, I really believe it. And there was a real filling up, and it was just a great calmness and certainty for me. One of the things that this led me to was this real desire to share this experience with other people. So a couple years later, I talked with the pastors at my church, and I said, I'd like to develop a course to help people do this. It was such a blessing to see how people responded to this that now we've gone on, and this has been one of those things that God has led me along the way to the fact that I've left my career to now full-time guide this to other churches around the country and eventually around the world.
The Bible 90-Day Challenge was a lot easier than just studying and reading the Word, but this time you could read it like a book.
And I really wanted to be able to read it from the beginning to the end continuously and get the overall benefit of it, as well as just reading the individual books.
But I just became aware of a lot of people who had started and then not made it all the way through, or people who were specialists in John or Isaiah, but didn't see the whole story unfold. And so the Bible in 90 Days became for us a way to expose people quickly to the whole story.
There's several reasons that the course was set up with a 90-day time frame. First of all, if you consider some of the other programs that are out there, either a 1-year or a 5-year program, those are great programs for folks that can devote a year or 5 years to them. Unfortunately, not everybody can do that. We're in a society today where people really look at shorter time frames, and based on the diversions that we have, really putting this in a 90-day time period, I think, helps people be successful at doing this. Second issue is that when you're reading at this pace, you're really able to make some connections that you wouldn't otherwise make. You're reading Genesis one day, and it's just several days later that you're reading Joshua, and you can make some connections to what you read in Joshua to what you read in Genesis. If you're on a 1-year program or a 5-year program, you're talking sometimes weeks in between your reading.
When I began to see the prophecies pointing toward Jesus Christ, through the books of the prophets, and then the next week getting into Jesus Christ himself was really a cohesiveness and a clarity in the Word that I had not seen before.
Especially having read it from cover to cover, gave me a broader understanding of God's master plan, beginning with the Israelites and to us today, and how He cares for us and loves us and wants us to be with Him forever.
I picked this Bible for a number of reasons. I have to admit the first reason I picked it was because it was thin. You know what? If you're going to read the entire Bible and you're going to read it in 90 days, you want to read a thin one, not a big, thick one. Thought it was very important that it be portable. I was a businessman at the time that I was doing this reading for the first time, and wanted something that I could throw in my briefcase and take with me if I needed, 10 or 15 minutes of reading while I was waiting for a business meeting. Obviously, the version of the Bible was important as well, and picked the NIV version. Felt like it was the most popular version out there. It was very contemporary language, and it made it very readable. And of course, we had all the scholars that were involved in translating it, so I knew that it was what we would call a big B Bible versus a little B Bible. It was a Bible that was a translation rather than a paraphrase. Another reason for specifying a particular Bible is that it just makes things simpler in the context of a class. It's simpler to say, go to page 975 and everybody would get there than it is to say, go to Isaiah 3:16 and see how long it takes for everybody to get there. Now, the other thing is that if we specified a particular Bible, everybody's reading the same text. And so the discussion is about the meaning of the text rather than the differences between the variety of different Bibles that people might be reading. Of course, people can read whatever version of the Bible they want to in this process. What we believe, though, is that there are some good reading Bibles out there, and there's a whole bunch of Bibles that aren't particularly good reading Bibles. They may be great study Bibles, but not reading Bibles. We also found in our early experience that the majority of people that used their own Bibles were not successful with the program. And in fact, the first 2 classes that we taught, it was only one person who successfully made it through the program using their own Bible. It starts with the participant's mission, which is to read attentively every word of the Bible in 90 days. Everything in the course, all the elements are there to support that mission. Number 1, of course, is the Bible. We picked what we believe is a very good reading Bible to support people's success in doing this. Number 2 is that people come to class. And the reason for the class is multifold. Number 1 is because it provides accountability. There's a public pronouncement, I'm reading the Bible, and it helps to then have other people who are aware that you're doing this. But those people aren't there just to make you accountable, they're also there to support you. And you're there to support them as well. There's nothing like going through this kind of experience in a group. And we believe that that's a very important part of the success of this endeavor. During the classes, there's also the opportunity to share your experiences in a small group setting. So you'll get the opportunity to ask questions or to help answer questions for other people.
It's amazing when we get together as a small group, some of the wonderful revelations and insights that people have that may have not even come from my own personal study. And I go, wow, yeah, and it kind of rings in your own heart.
As we all read in 90 days, as we all share the same experience, as we all read the same pages of the same book each day, we're kind of fellow travelers, and we get to know one another much better.
And that was absolutely great, to be able to sit down and discuss the Word of God, being on equal footing because we were reading the same thing, we're learning the same thing at the same time, we believe the same way, and it was just absolutely great. Talk about relationship, big time.
Another important aspect of the class time are the video lessons. These videos provide insights into the reading and provide springboards for discussion in the small group.
When the video comes on, the depth of understanding through how it explains what we had covered has been very enlightening.
Yeah, I think the video session is very helpful because it gave us a very summary of the studying the book we've been reading the week before.
An optional component is the Essential Bible Companion, which is a resource book that's essentially a 2-page spread of every book in the Bible. Each 2-page spread gives you information on an overview for that particular book, some maps. It tells you where that particular book is on the Old Testament timeline. There's a description of a lot of the main people that are in that particular book so that you can find out who those people are. In your average novel, there may be 20 named people that you sort of have to keep track of. In the Bible, the 3,500. So you can see that maybe you could use a little bit of help, and that's the nature of this particular book. A very common question from participants is, what do I do if I get behind? While we encourage people to stay up with their reading, obviously over the course of 90 days, most people at some point will probably get a little bit behind. And we just tell people a couple of things to remember. Number one is, don't skip any pages. It's a natural thing to think, well, I'll skip and catch up, later on. But it doesn't happen that way. We're trying to read the entire Bible from cover to cover in 90 days. And if you skip pages, you just can't do that. So what should a person do if they fall behind? Well, first, it depends on how far behind you are. If you're a little bit behind, you may just choose to add a few pages a day, and say you're 12 pages behind, then you'll have caught up within a week, and so that's fine. Now, we hope that this doesn't happen, but if you get pretty far behind, you may need to set aside a block of time to catch up. Some people get a little concerned about this, and they think, well, if I sit there and read this in 3 or 4 hours, I'm just plowing through the reading. And yeah, there is an element to that. But I will say this also, God's work sometimes is just like work. Nevertheless, I really believe that you'll find some insights in doing the reading this way, and you'll really find it a worthwhile endeavor.
Just pray and ask the Lord to give you the discipline just to, and the stick-to-itness. And if you get behind, don't feel bad and guilty and all strung out. You'll catch up. You'll be fine.
I think the key to staying on schedule is to have a schedule and to stick to it.
It can be done. I've done it. I didn't think I could. And it's something that I feel like that it just takes commitment, and it's a commitment that is worthwhile and is something that everyone can do.
You'll carve out time to do something you really want to do. And I just carved out the time. The Bible became part of me for 90 days.
The best part of my experience in the Bible in 90 days was getting to know God. But the second best part was I completed the Bible. I was really proud of that.
I had a life-changing experience in reading the Bible this way. And I don't expect everyone to have the same experience. In fact, they won't. What I do expect is that when people read the Bible with an open heart, God will reveal things to them in His Word that they never knew existed. It can be an exciting journey. I tell people to buckle in and enjoy the ride.